Look, today's webinar presented by Wheel is about virtual cards. We like to call it the secret weapon against overspending, and we'll go through how you can achieve, real good spending controls across the business through the use of virtual cards. Of course, want to kind of kick things off with an acknowledgement of country. In the spirit of reconciliation, Will respectfully acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to all First Nations people, past and present. I'm joining you today from our lovely offices. A little bit of housekeeping. So keep an eye out for our interactive polls today. We want to get to know you all. Ask any questions that you have via the QA function, please. It's easy to jump into the chat. However, we'll be able to prioritize and sort through any questions if you are using the QA much more effectively. And look, the session's going to be recorded today, so keep your eyes peeled this afternoon. We'll send a recording out to everyone for a review, or of course sharing with any colleagues and peers that you're working with. So diving into the agenda. So look, why did we want to do a webinar on virtual cards? Look, the average SME is managing anywhere from 40 to 200 or more software subscriptions, as well as various other kind of petty cash and ad hoc payments around the business. And virtual cards are commonly used. So we thought this was a topic well worth diving into today. A little bit about myself. My name is Kale, not named after a vegetable as people like to often call out. I'm one of the product specialists here at Wheel, but I'm also a treasurer for a nonprofit. And we use virtual cards for our operations, really streamlining spending controls and financial governance and kind of shortening that month end and audit kind of period every single year. Diving straight into it though, everyone, we're going to jump into a poll. So I want to throw it over to all of our participants. Is there a difference between a virtual card and a digital card, or are they the same thing? So give you about 20 seconds to pop a reply in there. We've got the majority of people saying yes, couple saying no. Couple more seconds, let everyone pop in their answers. Awesome. So look, most people have said yes. So let's, gonna exit that. Let's kind of jump in and chat through the difference. So what are virtual cards, or what is the difference between virtual cards and digital cards? So look, a virtual card is stored on your phone and can be used to pay contactless in stores or online, but specifically they have a unique card number, expiry, and CVC. Commonly, a digital card is just a copy of your physical bank card that's stored on your phone. So today we're going to be really focusing on virtual cards. Although quite similar, there is a few kind of key differences. So what are virtual company cards? Virtual company cards are very similar to a physical card. You should expect, for the most part, that you can use a virtual card essentially anywhere that a physical card can be used. They contain, 16 unique card digits for the card number. They contain a unique security or CVV code, and they'll also have their own unique expiry date. The big difference between a physical card is, of course, you don't need to wait for a virtual card to be mailed out to you, which can sometimes take 2 weeks to 2 months. And additionally, the application process is usually digitized and online and very streamlined. So applying and getting access to those cards can take anywhere from 30 seconds to same day issuance. Virtual cards also have more security. They can't be cloned, they can't be stolen, unless your mobile device is stolen, but then your mobile device is often protected by, biometric security, Face ID, fingerprint ID. And additionally, virtual cards can actually be single use. So kind of one and done, you can issue a card, make a single purchase, and you can actually terminate that card instantly without risk of, canceling any direct debits that you might have set up. And as mentioned before, they are for all types of purchases. Those recurring direct debit payments with your software vendors, they can be used in store. I'm sure everyone here has Apple Pay or Google Pay set up, at least for their personal cards and spending, and used online, very much like a physical card, just entering in the card number, CVV, and expiry date. So we've really seen over the past, 2 years that virtual cards have become more and more popular for businesses. We're really lucky in Australia that we can get away with virtual cards at a really high acceptance rate. In Australia, we have about 98% acceptance of, Apple Pay and Google Pay. Globally, even in the US, I think they're only just getting up to 50%. So we've really seen a big uptake globally, but specifically in Australia, a lot of individuals and businesses are really adopting virtual cards at a high rate. The key reasons that we see businesses shifting from traditional kind of corporate cards or physical cards and to virtual cards is because of better visibility on spending. So you might have been using a traditional credit card. Sometimes the transaction might not clear. And what that means is you don't see it on your transaction or bank statement for sometimes up to 3 to 5 business days. Virtual cards, if anyone in your business or yourself is making a payment through a virtual card, you will see it instantly on the bank transaction statement within about 5 seconds. They're easier to distribute. So a lot of the businesses that we work with have remote or distributed workforces, or they have, different sites and locations that they operate from. Traditional physical cards, going through the bank and mailing them out and distributing those are really painful and time consuming. Through the digital nature of virtual cards, you can issue them essentially in a second to anyone located anywhere in the world. There's more security and fraud proof built in. Again, biometrics to log in and access your smart device protect virtual cards. However, there's no risk of those cards being skimmed and ultimately frauded like you can have with a physical card. Better accountability across the business with real-time visibility on transactions and being able to pinpoint exactly who in the business is spending what. You can have this concept of collective accountability across the business of, really spending on what's important to the business and appropriately reconciling expenditure across the team. It eliminates card sharing. So many businesses that we speak with resort to card sharing because it doesn't make sense or it's too time consuming to get everyone a card issued through their bank. So they just ask the manager, they pass it down the line, and that causes obvious fraud risk, but the month end accounting work a pain because who has the receipt, who made which payment. And then of course, streamline management. This really kind of consolidates all of the above points, and it's all about having one person, 2 people in the business having the control of issuing, freezing, cancelling, and visibility over virtual cards. A business that we work with put it really well one time. They kind of said that they felt that virtual cards made them feel like the control was stripped away from the banks, who usually approve the issuance and allocations of cards and credit limits and spending limits, and put it in the hands of them and their finance team to manage completely independently with no kind of requirements of talking to the banks. And I think that's a really powerful benefit of virtual cards. So without further ado, I want to jump in and show you how virtual cards work, how you can issue them, and the spending controls built in. And of course, we're going to use the Wheel platform today to demonstrate that. So jumping into Wheel. Wheel is Australia's leading spend management platform for those that don't know who we are. We have built an end-to-end solution for issuing, freezing, and cancelling virtual cards. building custom spend policies into those cards. So restricting who can spend how much, how frequently they can spend. And we can even go as deep as restricting specific merchants or types of spend. A popular one for us is, banning pubs and clubs within the Wheel platform. Off the back of any spend, staff can then acquit their expenses, attach receipts, code it, and we connect with Australia's leading and most popular small business accounting software to move that bank reconciliation process to a one-click month end. Now, we're not going to be going through, of course, the whole entire Wheel platform today. We're just going to be focusing on the card issuance. So if anyone's gone through issuing or accessing cards for their business before, it's a pretty lengthy process dealing with the banks. Fun fact, the fastest we've ever had a virtual card issued and that transactional data in the accounting system was 10 minutes for a new business customer. And that's because of the controls built in. The compliance requirements for onboarding users is somewhat restricted. And as a tech company, we kind of obviously prioritize efficiency in those areas as well. So before we issue a card, we need to set up people within our business who need access to a virtual card. This is done in our invite people page at the top right. This is where we can invite all of our users through a bulk CSV. Maybe you have 100, 200 staff that need access to a virtual card. Or if it's just a handful, you can do a quick invite where you'll select their role, you'll enter their email address, and you'll assign which payments they can use. We do have bills and reimbursements capability, but again, today we're just focusing on the cards element. Once you hit invite, you're going to be then able to issue cards to your staff. Now, contrasting that to a bank corporate card program where an employee has to fill out a form, send it upstream for sign off, and then submit it with the bank for approval. This process takes about 2 seconds to onboard a user, unlocking them to be allocated to a budget and issued a card. The screen that you can see here is our budgets dashboard in Wheel. And underlying each budget are virtual corporate cards that have been issued to employees in this demo business. Budgets are commonly considered like cost centers or tracking categories. However, we do have some really small businesses that will set up a budget for each team member, Kale's budget, Mark's budget example. However, more commonly, you're really going to set these up on that kind of cost center or divisional or department level. Creating a budget is really simple and straightforward. So we can create a budget for virtual cards for operations team. And this is where the controls associated with virtual cards come in. So we can set our own top-up frequency. So rather than just that standard monthly top-up, we can actually define a weekly, a monthly, or an annual recurring top-up for these budgets or these cards. Or we can even do one time only, which comes into play for that kind of single-use card issuance. For this one, operations, I know we need $500 every week across the team. We have 2 people in our team, James and Joseph, that need a spend. And we can also set up approvals for top-up requests. So they've reached their $500, they can then approve and request more funds. Now, within virtual cards in Wheel, you can set a limit for each person. So if I was to create this one now, James could actually spend the full $500. Commonly across different departments and functional teams in business, that doesn't make sense. We need individuals to have their own distinct spending limits. So to enable that, we set a limit for each person and we can say, for example, James and Joseph get $250 each. Creating that budget will instantly issue cards to our team. They have a capped spending limit where James and Joseph cards are issued right away. And as a reminder, virtual cards, they are not waiting for these to be sent out in the mail or to the head office. They can log into the mobile app on their phone. They can access their card instantly. They can begin transacting instantly, and every single purchase is visible and auditable by the finance team. Just as important as issuing cards, maybe James finishes up leaving for us or is going on a 6-month sabbatical. We want to be able to cancel and freeze those cards. Again, no need with virtual cards to call the bank or call Wheel to cancel it, hit the red trash can icon, and you will instantly revoke any access to funds for James. That will reduce the overall budget limit, and Joseph now only has access to $250 within that budget. So that is our budget and card issuance with virtual cards in Wheel. Now, to really summarize budgets, they're just ways to issue cards and set bespoke or custom spending controls that are in line with your spending policy. We have a lot of customers that their sales team, when they're traveling or on the road, they might have a spending policy that says they get $100 a day or $50 a day for, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This is how you can essentially build that policy into smart virtual cards rather than simply relying on, 100% compliance from your employees, which we know doesn't always happen. I want to quickly touch on another virtual card issuing tool that we do have built in to Wheel, and that is our subscription management. So these are those kind of single purpose subscription cards for managing all of that software and SaaS spend. So many businesses that we speak with are managing, 40 to 100, maybe even over 200 software or subscription spend on a single or maybe 1 to 3 corporate MX or CBA cards. If one of those cards get frauded and you have to cancel it, you are potentially going to default on 50 to 100 vendors who then may freeze your subscriptions until you talk to the bank, get a new card issued, and reestablish that direct debit and payment in time before they freeze any accounts. So what we've built is the ability to issue or create subscription cards, a specific or unique MasterCard for specific subscription or direct debit payments in the business. You can assign owners in the business who are then responsible each month for attaching the receipt. But ultimately from the finance function or as an owner or an operational person in the business, you can actually reallocate owners, you can delete, and you can even freeze these cards. Let's say Zoom all of a sudden increased their pricing and I wasn't aware of it. I could actually pause that subscription, have a chat with Zoom, and potentially negotiate pricing before they continue charging me at a new rate. And just quickly closing everything off, for visibility on where the spend goes, in our transaction table is that real-time view of virtual card expenditure. You'll instantly see where the money was spent with the merchant, how much was spent. We calculate the GST through virtual cards as well. Every single transaction is attributed back to a Wheel budget and the team member who made the payment. And then we can also capture receipts, chart of account coding, cost centers, tracking categories, descriptions, ultimately for that reconciliation in your accounting system. So that is Wheel. I'm going to jump back into our presentation today. Sorry, let me sort my screens out. And I want to jump into a bit of an Ask Me Anything. So I've done a lot of talking. We've got the Q&A there. I'm going to pop it open. Please pop in any questions that you have about virtual cards or Wheel generally as a platform. So we have an anonymous attendee saying no car hire company seems to accept virtual cards. Do you have a suggestion as a workaround for companies? So car hire vendors often don't accept prepaid cards. They do accept debit cards. Where they don't accept the virtual cards is for kind of putting the deposit or insurance down. So when I use virtual cards and I travel for work and hire a car, what I do is I use my virtual card to actually make the payment, the initial upfront payment. And then I'll have another, personal card or credit card that I'll put on file for that insurance or deposit. And then should there be any charges that need to be incurred on that personal card I've put aside, I'll actually just claim a reimbursement, which you can actually do through the Wheel platform. Exciting news, there is kind of becoming some advancements and in the virtual card space, and more are shifting across to that debit model, which we're excited to be kind of focusing on as a number one priority at Wheel at the moment. I also have another question. Someone obviously kind of experienced with Wheel. Do Wheel's cards and reimbursements work together? So look, as I mentioned, we do have a reimbursement tool built in. Look, they can work together. The reason we built reimbursements to complement our cards tool was that some of our customers were still having, the odd employee here or there that didn't require a card. Maybe they're making one purchase every 1 to 3 months. So those users we typically advise to kind of put on the reimbursements, and then all other employees in the business are generally added as a card holder. Do you need separate cards for every subscription? No, you don't. You can have a single card for every subscription in the business. However, there's probably just pros and cons to each of those processes. And look, if you reach out to our team, we've kind of onboarded virtual cards in the Wheel platform across thousands of businesses and over 40,000 employees Australia-wide. So we'd be happy to kind of share our experiences onboarding different kind of processes and use cases in the Wheel platform, kind of in a personalized one-to-one product call. I have another one. Does Wheel work with Xero? Absolutely. We have a great integration with Xero. Not only do we pass across receipts, chart of account coding, tracking categories, GST descriptions, and all of that important spend money or bill information. We also have a live bank feed with Xero. So you'll work from a single bank feed, and providing everything is acquitted by your employees, you should have a one-click bank reconciliation with Xero at month end. Can you upload receipts or pictures to the mobile app? Absolutely, you can. I didn't show the app today because it wasn't kind of on the agenda. If you're interested to learn more, please reach out to us following the session today, and we can send you a video on how the mobile app works, or even arrange a time with one of our sales reps. But yeah, absolutely, you can upload a receipt to the app. We've also partnered with a great Australian technology company called Slip. That's SLYP, if anyone wants to give them a Google. And they've built a digital receipt infrastructure or network around Australia. And any merchants on that network, if you make a payment there with a Wheel virtual card, you don't even need a physical receipt and take a photo. We'll actually capture a digital receipt instantly and in seconds. The balance is paid by direct debit. Sorry, the question was, is the balance paid by direct debit from bank account? So look, virtual cards and the Wheel platform is not a credit facility. We simply allow Australian businesses to spend their own money. So you can deposit funds from any of your pre-existing business bank accounts and then spend accordingly based on budgeted allocation through the budgets dashboard. I think we've got time for probably 2 more questions. So one here is, does Wheel's virtual cards work in rural areas of Australia? Look, we have plenty of customers located Australia-wide, particularly in the non-profit space, where we have the services they provided to rural or remote Indigenous communities, or they even rural and remote, families where they provide healthcare services to, and they use Wheel kind of with no issues. I can't comment on every rural area accurately, but as far as I'm aware, there's no reason that Wheel virtual cards should not work in rural areas of Australia. I had one more question with Wheel. I think this is regarded to pricing. Look, please send us an email. We can have a chat more formally about pricing. In terms of cards, do we pay for every card issued? You do not pay for every card issued. Our pricing model is actually per user, and one user could technically have, for argument's sake, 50 cards. You'll only pay a single user fee for that user. And I think last one before we wrap things up, if I use NetSuite as my accounting software, can I still integrate that into Wheel? So We work with hundreds and hundreds of businesses that operate using NetSuite. We don't have a direct API integration with NetSuite as of yet. It is excitingly kind of something that we're planning to do this year. However, we have an onboarding team who will essentially map and ensure that you capture all required accounting and expense reporting fields in Wheel so that it is available to pass through to your NetSuite. Again, please reach out. Happy to send a bit of information or even have a quick 5 to 10 minute phone call on what the experience of using Wheel alongside NetSuite will look like. Alrighty, lots of questions, really good questions. We're going to send a follow-up kind of summarizing some of the key or the FAQs from today's session to everyone that's attended, as well as the recording. Please, if you have any questions or would like to learn more, you can reach out to us at sales@letswheel.com or jump on the website. You can do a product tour. You can request a demo directly with one of our product teams, and they'll kind of run through the end-to-end platform and answer any questions specific to your business needs.